Listen up because the game just changed forever. You think you know what cartel war means? You're probably thinking of old-school shootouts and guys with gold-plated 1911s. Man, throw that Hollywood trash out the window right now. In the streets of Culiacan, the Chapitos aren't just gangsters anymore. They're a high-tech private army. We're talking kamikaze drones, signal jammers, and thermal optics that make the local police look like they're playing with toys. This isn't a street fight. It's a 21st century battlefield where the tech is as lethal as the shooters. Stay tuned, because we're about to deconstruct the terrifying arsenal that's keeping the Mexican government awake at night. The drone revolution in electronic warfare. The sky over Sinaloa used to be for the birds, but now it belongs to the monsters of the air. When the Chapitos realized they couldn't always beat the army in a head-on ground fight, they went digital. We're seeing FPV, first-person view, drones rigged with high-grade explosives. Imagine a $500 drone from a hobby shop carrying a payload that can crack an armored truck like an egg. These pilots are kids raised on PlayStation, and now they're flying suicide missions into rival convoys. They don't even have to be in the same zip code to take you out. It's Call of Duty in real life, but there are no respawns here. But it gets even crazier than that. The Chapitos aren't just using drones for bombs. They're using them for total battlefield awareness. They have eye-in-the-sky units that feed real-time 4K video back to their command centers. Before the Mexican military even starts their engines, the cartel knows exactly which way they're heading. And if you think you can just call for backup, think again. The high-tech wings of the Sinaloa Cartel are now deploying portable signal jammers. We're talking about electronic warfare suites that can black out cell service and radio comms in a 5-block radius. They create a dead zone where the police can't call for air support or coordinate their movements. In that silence, the Chapitos move in like ghosts. They've turned the city's own infrastructure against itself. And don't even get me started on the ghost comms. They aren't using WhatsApp or standard radios anymore. They've moved to encrypted satellite links and burn-only software that wipes itself every 10 minutes. Tracking them is like trying to catch smoke with your bare hands. The DEA is pulling their hair out because these guys are staying 2 steps ahead of the most expensive surveillance on Earth. This isn't a ragtag group of thugs. This is a tech-funded insurgency. They're buying the same gear that special forces use in Eastern Europe and bringing it straight to the border. Every dollar you spend on the street goes straight into an R&D budget for more sophisticated ways to kill. The Chapitos have basically turned the entire state of Sinaloa into a laboratory for urban warfare. And the scariest part? They're just getting started. The Iron River and heavy metal. Now let's talk about the heavy hitters, the stuff that makes the ground shake. What do you think a kid in the mountains gets a Barrett .50 cal sniper rifle that can take down a helicopter? It's called the Iron River, and it flows one way, north to south. For every gram of powder going up, a crate of high-velocity lead is coming down. The Chapitos have a specific obsession with the .50 caliber because it ignores armor. They mount these beasts on the back of custom-built monstruos, DIY tanks that look like something out of Mad Max. We're talking steel plates thick enough to stop a military-grade rifle round. They weld these plates on a heavy-duty Ford and Chevy trucks, turning them into rolling fortresses. Some of these rigs even have rotating turrets and ports for snipers. Inside, they've got thermal imaging cameras so they can see your heat signature through a brick wall. You could be hiding in a dark basement, thinking you're safe while a guy in a truck 2 blocks away is locking onto your chest. It's a predator versus prey scenario, and the cartel has all the cool gadgets. They've also been spotted with M249 SAW machine guns and even RPGs. When they decide to close a city, they don't just park a car in the road. They deploy an entire tactical unit with overlapping fields of fire. They use calf traps, steel spikes designed to shred the tires of any chasing vehicle. And if that doesn't work, they have tail gunners using armor-piercing rounds. The level of coordination is terrifyingly professional. They use tactical jump kits that include night vision goggles that cost more than a mid-sized sedan. They don't care about the price tag because their budget is effectively infinite. When you have billions in liquid cash, you don't browse the catalog, you buy the factory. The underground Silicon Valley. If you think the tunnels are just dirt holes in the ground, you're living in the past. The Chapitos have turned tunnel engineering into a high-stakes science project. We're talking about super tunnels equipped with automated rail systems and fiber optic internet. These aren't just for moving product. They are underground command centers. They have climate control systems to keep the merchandise and the soldiers from overheating. Some of these tunnels are built with hydraulic elevators hidden under everyday furniture. You could be standing in a kitchen in a suburban house and have no clue there's a massive logistical hub 50 feet below your boots. They use ground-penetrating radar to make sure they don't hit city water lines or gas pipes. It's like they have their own private department of public works, but for crime. The engineering is so precise that they can pop up exactly where they need to be, behind enemy lines or right inside a secure warehouse. This isn't manual labor. It's high-level urban planning. They even have sensory floors that alert them to vibrations from heavy machinery or police vehicles above. If the feds are coming, the tunnel breathes and clears out before the first ore is kicked in. They've basically built a second city under the border that the DEA can't even map. It's a ghost infrastructure that keeps the money flowing 24/7. The chemical evolution, synthetic gods. Let's get real about what's actually paying for all this high-tech hardware. The era of the poppy flower is fading, and the era of the lab is here. The Sinaloa Cartel has shifted almost entirely to synthetic drugs because the profit margins are insane. They have cooks who aren't just guys in a basement. They are trained chemists. They've built industrial-scale labs in the middle of the jungle that look like pharmaceutical factories. They're using precursor chemicals sourced from overseas, moving them through shell companies that look totally legit. 1 kilogram of fentanyl can be cut into enough doses to kill a whole city, and the profit is 1,000 times the cost. This chemical gold is why the Chapitos have more cash than some small countries. They've automated the process with industrial pill presses that can spit out thousands of blues every hour. They don't need farmers anymore. They just need a steady supply of chemicals and a clean power grid. And they've gotten clever with the cloaking of these labs. They use industrial-grade air scrubbers to neutralize the smell so the fuzz can't sniff them out with drones or dogs. They even use heat shield tents that make the labs invisible to thermal cameras on police helicopters. It's a game of hide-and-seek where the cartel has the invisibility cloak. This chemical pivot is what's funding the drones, the armor, and the bribes. Without the lab, the army falls apart. But with the lab, the war chest is bottomless. Cyber cartel, the digital frontline. The war isn't just being fought in the streets. It's being fought on your screen. The Sinaloa Cartel has its own IT department that handles everything from crypto laundering to doxing officials. They use bot farms to flood social media with propaganda and narco corridos to glorify the lifestyle. They can track their enemies by hacking into public CCTV cameras or buying location data on the black market. If a rival leader is hiding, they don't look for his car, they look for his digital footprint. They use specialized software to intercept the unencrypted radio frequencies of local police. When the cops plan a raid, the cartel is listening in like they're on a conference call. They've also mastered the art of crypto mixing to move billions across borders without a single bank seeing a red flag. Bitcoin, Monero, Tether, you name it, they're using it to wash the blood off their cash. They hire freelance hackers from all over the world to build custom encryption tools for their phones. The Chapitos know that information is just as lethal as a .50 cal bullet. If they can hack your phone, they don't need to kidnap you. They already know your secrets. This is the cyber-narco era, where the keyboard is a weapon of mass destruction. They are effectively a tech startup with a massive body count. The psych war and elite units. Beyond the hardware, the Chapitos are masters of terror psychology. They don't just kill their enemies. They stage the scene to send a message to the world. Every execution is recorded on high-definition cameras and edited into cinematic narco clips. They use these videos to recruit more soldiers by making the life look like a high-budget action movie. The special forces of the cartel, known as Los Ninis, are trained by deserters from real elite military units. These guys aren't just street brawlers. They know tactical room, clearing, and urban suppression. They wear tactical vests, ballistic helmets, and uniform insignias to show they are part of a structured army. They have their own Q branch that modifies standard weapons to fire at higher rates or take larger magazines. We're seeing the use of anti-aircraft batteries mounted on flatbed trucks to deter the Mexican Air Force. This is a direct challenge to the sovereignty of the state. If you control the air and you control the ground, you are the state. They use ghost soldiers, mercenaries from other countries who bring foreign combat experience to the mountains of Sinaloa. Some reports say they've even looked into buying retired military hardware from international black markets. Nothing is off limits when you're fighting for a multi-billion-dollar inheritance. The internal civil war between the Mayos and the Chapitos is forcing both sides to escalate their tech at an insane speed. It's a Darwinian arms race where only the most technologically advanced will survive. The Mayos represent the old-school wisdom, but the Chapitos are bringing the digital storm. This conflict is literally rewriting the manual on how cartels operate in the modern age. The borders aren't just lines on a map anymore. They're digital gateways for money and weapons. And as the violence spills over, the entire world is watching a superpower of crime emerge from the shadows. The Shadow Army and the Psych War. Now, let's talk about the guys actually pulling the triggers. Los Ninis. This isn't your average crew of street thugs and lookouts. These guys are the elite, the personal Praetorian Guard of the Chapitos. They got their name because they neither study nor work, except for the cartel. But don't let the name fool you into thinking they're lazy. They're trained by ex-military deserters who sold their souls for a bigger paycheck. We're talking about tactical room clearing, coordinated flanking, and high-speed convoy interceptions. They wear tactical gear that matches what you'd see on a SWAT team in Los Angeles or New York. Ballistic helmets with NVG mounts, ceramic plates that can stop a 7.62 round, and digital camo. They operate in cells of 12, each with a designated medic, a drone pilot, and a heavy gunner. When a Nini squad rolls into a neighborhood, the local police usually find an excuse to be somewhere else. It's not just about firepower. It's about the professionalization of murder. They even have their own boot camps hidden in the Sierra Madre Mountains. They put recruits through hell to make sure they won't blink when the real lead starts flying. If you can't handle the pressure of a simulated raid, you don't get the uniform. And once you're in, the only way out is in a pine box. The new structural corruption. The old-school way was bribing a cop with a bag of cash under a bridge. But the Chapitos have evolved into structural corruption that goes way deeper. They don't just buy individuals, they buy entire systems. We're talking about ghost employees on government payrolls who actually report to the cartel. They've infiltrated the logistics chains of the very companies that build the city's tech. Need to know where the Army's GPS trackers are? They've got a guy in the IT department who can give them a back door into the server. It's like a corporate takeover of the Mexican state from the inside out. They use shell companies to win government contracts for security or infrastructure. So, the government is literally paying the cartel to build the roads they use for smuggling. It's a perfect loop of dirty money and state resources. They even have legal wings, teams of high-priced lawyers who know every loophole in the book. If a high-ranking member gets pinched, the lawyers are at the station before the handcuffs are even tight. They use the law as a shield and a weapon at the same time. It's not about breaking the system anymore. It's about owning it. The strategy of psychological terror. Firepower wins battles, but terror wins the war. The Chapitos don't just want to kill their rivals. They want to erase their spirit. They've turned the Kiliakanazo into a psychological brand. When they want to send a message, they don't whisper, they scream. We're seeing the use of narco banners hung from bridges with QR codes that lead to execution videos. They want you to see what happens to a rat in 4K high definition. They use social media influencers to make the cartel life look like a glamorous dream. They flood TikTok and Instagram with videos of piles of cash, exotic lions, and armored supercars. It's a recruitment drive aimed straight at the hearts of bored, poor teenagers. But on the flip side, they use digital hitmen to dox the families of police officers. If a cop tries to be a hero, his wife gets a photo of her kids at school sent to her phone. That's the ultimate silencer. It's a 24/7 psychological operations campaign designed to make resistance feel useless. They want the public to believe that the cartel is the only real power in their lives. They've turned the city of Culiacan into a theater of the macabre. And every time a video goes viral, their legend grows. The fear is the product, and business is booming. The global fracture of 2026. As we move into 2026, the war is no longer contained in the mountains of Sinaloa. The betrayal of El Mayo has sent shockwaves through every shipping port from Ecuador to Rotterdam. Because the Sinaloa Cartel is a federation, the fracture means every local boss has to pick a side. If you're a dealer in Chicago or a distributor in Madrid, you're now caught in the crossfire. The Chapitos are trying to enforce a monopoly, while the Mayos are fighting for their legacy. This has created a narco-civil war that is draining the cartel's bank accounts. But don't think they're going broke. They're just getting more desperate, which makes them more dangerous. Other groups, like the CJ&G, are circling like vultures, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The shadow empire is at a crossroads, total dominance or total collapse. But even if the leaders fall, the tech and the tactics stay behind. The ghost in the machine is already out, and you can't put it back in the bottle. The world is watching the most violent corporate restructuring in human history, and the price of the stock is paid in blood. Global logistics and the ghost fleet. The Sinaloa Cartel isn't just a gang. It's the world's most efficient logistics company. Forget FedEx or Amazon. These guys move weight across borders that are supposedly shut tight. In 2026, they've mastered the art of the ghost fleet on the high seas. We're talking about semi-submersible vessels that sit just inches below the waterline. These narco subs are coated in specialized paint that absorbs radar waves from Coast Guard cutters. They can carry up to 10 tons of product from the coast of Colombia straight to the shores of Mexico. But it's not just about the subs anymore. The Chapitos are now using parasite containers attached to the bottom of massive cargo ships. Divers swim out to commercial vessels and bolt pressurized pods to the hull below the waterline. The ship's captain doesn't even know he's carrying $50 million worth of white gold. Once the ship reaches a port like Long Beach or Rotterdam, a second team of divers retrieves the pod. It's a silent, invisible supply chain that bypasses every X-ray machine in the world. They've turned the global shipping industry into their own personal delivery service. The fentanyl crisis of 2026. Let's talk about the silent killer that's funding this entire high-tech war. Fentanyl. By 2026, the Chapitos have perfected this synthetic pivot. They've moved away from vast poppy fields that can be spotted by satellites. Instead, they operate in micro labs the size of a standard shipping container. These labs can be tucked away in a suburban basement or a remote mountain shack. One single pound of pure fentanyl can be turned into 1 million counterfeit pills. The profit margin is so high, it's actually hard for the human brain to comprehend. We're talking about a 3,000% return on investment. This is why they can afford to lose a $100,000 drone or a $200,000 armored truck every single day. They have so much cash that they've started burning, investing in legitimate businesses just to hide the volume. But the sheer lethality of the product is creating a massive political backlash. The U.S. and Mexico are under more pressure than ever to treat the cartels like foreign terrorist organizations. The Chapitos know the heat is coming, so they're doubling down on their defenses. They're moving their labs deeper into the Golden Triangle and surrounding them with automated turrets. It's a chemical arms race where the only winners are the ones with the most chemists. AI and the future of money laundering. If you think they're still using suitcases full of cash, you're stuck in the 80s. In 2026, the Sinaloa Cartel is using artificial intelligence to wash their dirty billions. They've developed laundering algorithms that split one large transaction into millions of tiny ones. These micro-transfers happen across thousands of digital wallets in a matter of seconds. By the time the feds track one wallet, the money has already bounced through 10 different countries. They use AI to mimic the spending patterns of regular people, so the bank's red flag systems don't go off. It's called neural laundering, and it's nearly impossible to stop without shutting down the whole internet. They're also heavily invested in decentralized finance, or DeFi. They lend their drug money out on digital platforms to earn interest, making the money clean through the blockchain. The cartel CFO is probably a 22-year-old kid with a degree in computer science and zero criminal record. They're fighting a digital war with a digital treasury. And as AI gets smarter, so does the cartel's ability to hide in plain sight. The 2026 conclusion: the shadow remains. We've seen the drones, the armor, the elite squads, and the digital ghosts. The capture of El Mayo was supposed to be the end of an era. But in reality, it was just the update to a newer, more violent operating system. The Sinaloa Cartel has survived for decades because it adapts faster than the governments try and stop it. It's a hydra. You cut off the head of a godfather, and 2 tech-savvy sons grow back in his place. The conflict between the Mayos and the Chapitos is a beta test for the future of global crime. The world isn't just watching a drug war. It's watching the birth of a new kind of superpower, one that doesn't have a flag, but has more power than many countries. As long as the demand exists and the tech is available, the shadow empire will keep growing. The only question is, who's going to be left to tell the story? Stay sharp, because in this world, the next big thing is usually a bullet or a ghost.